The old man's hands trembled slightly as he ran a soft cloth over the gleaming chrome of his Harley-Davidson. Each curve, each scratch, and each dent told a story of the roads he had traveled and the years he had survived. He was a veteran, a man who had seen both the horrors of war and the struggles of civilian life, but nothing had ever prepared him for the quiet heartbreak he now faced. His granddaughter, the little girl who brought light into his days, needed expensive medication. Without it, her future was uncertain. He had tried everything, sold belongings, picked up odd jobs despite his age, and cut down on his own meals to save money. But the medical bills kept stacking, and time was running out. He stood in his garage, staring at the Harley as though it were an old comrade. That motorcycle had been with him through thick and thin. After returning from Vietnam, when the world seemed gray and unwelcoming, riding down open highways on that bike had given him freedom. It had been his therapy when nightmares haunted him and his sanctuary when loneliness crept in. The Harley wasn't just a machine, it was his last link to youth, freedom, and identity. But now, he was faced with a decision no grandfather should ever have to make. He sighed heavily, placed his hand on the leather seat, and whispered almost like a prayer, "You've been good to me, old girl. But it's time you helped me one last time." That morning, he rolled the Harley out onto the driveway. The sun reflected off the polished chrome, making it look almost too beautiful to let go. Neighbors passing by slowed down, recognizing both the man and the bike. Some knew how much he loved it. Some shook their heads, understanding without asking questions. He had put up a small handwritten sign, "For sale." It didn't take long before word spread. A few curious buyers came, mostly young men who admired the Harley but didn't truly understand its worth. Not in dollars, but in memories. They haggled over the price, treating it as just another vehicle. Each offer pierced his heart, but he knew he couldn't be choosy. He needed the money, and he needed it soon. By the afternoon, one man pulled up in a pickup truck, cash in hand. He wasn't a biker, just a collector looking to flip the Harley for profit. The veteran could tell, but he forced a smile, shook the man's hand, and took the envelope of money. As the stranger loaded the Harley onto the truck, the old veteran's eyes watered. He stood there, shoulders heavy, watching a piece of his soul being carried away. That evening, he sat at his kitchen table with the envelope in front of him. He thought of his granddaughter, her laughter, her tiny arms wrapping around his neck, the way she called him, Papa. He pictured her lying in that hospital bed, too weak to play like other children. The sacrifice, as painful as it was, felt worth it. He told himself that a motorcycle, no matter how much it meant, was nothing compared to her life. The house felt unbearably quiet without the Harley sitting in the garage. He wandered into the living room, turned on the lamp, and stared at the faded photos on the wall. There he was in uniform, standing proudly with his unit. There was his late wife, smiling, holding their daughter, the very same daughter who had given him the granddaughter now fighting for her life. And there, tucked in one frame, was a picture of him on the Harley during a veterans rally, waving the American flag as crowds cheered. His heart ached. He had lost so much in life already, brothers in arms, his wife, and now the last reminder of the man he once was. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat by the window, sipping weak coffee, staring at the streetlights outside. Every now and then, he swore he could almost hear the rumble of the Harley's engine, echoing in his memory. He rubbed his temples, telling himself he had done the right thing. But deep inside, an emptiness gnawed at him. The next morning, he woke to the sound of a knock at his door. He opened it cautiously and found his neighbor, a middle-aged man who often saw him working on the bike. The neighbor looked at him with sympathy. "I heard what you did," he said softly. "For your granddaughter. That's something else, man." The veteran nodded, trying to keep his emotions in check. "She comes first, always." Word continued to spread through the small town. Some locals admired his sacrifice, while others whispered behind his back, saying it was a shame an old soldier had to give up something so dear just to afford medicine. To the veteran, none of that mattered. All he cared about was making sure his granddaughter got what she needed. Later that afternoon, he drove into town with the envelope of money. He met his daughter outside the pharmacy. She looked tired, stressed from nights spent in the hospital. When he handed her the cash, She broke down crying, hugging him tightly. "Dad, I don't know what to say." "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," he interrupted, his voice firm but gentle. "She's family, and family comes before everything." Together, they paid for the medication. For the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of relief. His granddaughter would be okay, at least for now. But when he returned home that evening, the silence of the garage hit him harder than ever. He sat in his old recliner, staring blankly at the ceiling. The house creaked around him. The ticking clock on the wall was the only sound. He tried to imagine life moving forward without the Harley, but it was like trying to imagine himself without a part of his soul. As darkness fell, he stepped outside, leaning on the porch railing. The street was quiet, almost too quiet. But then, far in the distance, he heard it, the unmistakable growl of motorcycle engines. Not one, not two, but dozens. The sound grew louder, echoing through the neighborhood. Windows lit up as curious neighbors peeked outside. Dogs barked. Children pressed their faces to the glass. The veteran straightened, gripping the railing, his eyes narrowing as the rumble filled the street. Headlights appeared at the end of the block, one after another, until the entire road seemed to glow. Motorcycles lined up, their engines revving in unison, filling the air with a thunderous roar. The insignia on their jackets was clear even in the dim light, Hell's Angels. The old man froze, his heart pounding. He had heard of them, everyone had. Some feared them, others respected them, but no one ignored them. Why were they here? Why on his street? The lead biker, a towering man with a thick beard and tattoos snaking up his arms, pulled to a stop right in front of the veteran's house. He killed the engine, pulled off his helmet, and looked straight at him. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The old veteran felt his breath catch. The Harley may have been gone, but something told him his story with motorcycles wasn't over just yet. The silence between the roar of engines was deafening. The veteran gripped the wooden railing of his porch so tightly his knuckles turned white. The entire street was now filled with Harleys and choppers, each rider wearing the unmistakable patch of the Hell's Angels. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains, whispering nervously, unsure if danger had just rolled into their quiet town. Children were pulled inside, doors locked, and yet no one could look away. The lead biker dismounted his machine and walked with slow, heavy steps toward the veteran's porch. His boots crunched against the gravel, the leather of his cut creaking as he moved. He was massive, broad-shouldered, with a face weathered from both road and fight. But his eyes, though sharp, carried something unexpected: respect. "You're the man who sold his Harley for his granddaughter's medicine?" the biker asked, his voice deep, gravelly, and carrying the weight of authority. The veteran swallowed hard, unsure how this stranger knew, but he nodded. "Yes, that was me." For a moment, the big biker said nothing. He simply studied the old man, as though measuring his soul. Then he extended a gloved hand. "Name's Stone, president of this chapter. And sir, you've got the heart of a real rider." The veteran hesitated before shaking his hand, surprised by the firmness and sincerity in the grip. Behind Stone, the rest of the Angels stood by their bikes, silent but watchful. They weren't here to cause chaos. They were here for something else entirely. Stone motioned, and two bikers rolled forward with a trailer hitched to the back of a truck. The veteran's eyes widened as he recognized what was strapped to it. A Harley Davidson, black, chrome shining under the streetlights, and customized with intricate paintwork. It was beautiful, even more breathtaking than the one he had sold. "This," Stone said, pointing to the bike, "is for you." The veteran blinked in disbelief. "For me? I don't understand." Stone nodded slowly. "We heard about what you did. Word travels fast in the biker world. Selling your ride, your soul on wheels, just so your granddaughter could live. That's the kind of sacrifice we respect. You see, most people think we're about raising hell and nothing else. But what we really are, at our core, is brotherhood, loyalty, and taking care of family. You, old man, you live by the same code." The veteran felt a lump rise in his throat. His voice cracked. "But I can't accept this. That's a beautiful machine. I don't deserve it." Stone shook his head. "No, you more than deserve it. You've carried yourself with honor, both as a veteran of this country and as a grandfather willing to give up everything. Men like you remind us why we ride." He turned to his men and barked, "Bring it down." With practiced hands, the bikers rolled the Harley off the trailer and parked it directly in front of the veteran's porch. Its engine had been freshly tuned, its seat bore an embroidered American flag, and on the gas tank, painted in careful strokes, was the image of an eagle with wings spread wide. The veteran's eyes watered, his voice faltered as he whispered, "It's beautiful." Stone placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. "It's more than a bike. It's a reminder that even in the darkest times, you're never alone. We've got your back." The crowd of bikers revved their engines in unison, the roar echoing like thunder across the street. Neighbors gasped, unsure what to make of the spectacle. But the veteran, he felt something stir deep inside him. The emptiness that had haunted him since selling his Harley was suddenly filled with pride, gratitude, and renewed strength. Still overwhelmed, he asked, "Why? Why would you do this for me, a man you don't even know?" Stone gave him a half-smile. "Because brotherhood doesn't need introductions. You've already proven who you are. And when one of us sacrifices for family, it inspires the rest of us to do the same. Consider this bike not a gift, but an honor." The veteran lowered his head, overcome by emotion. His hands trembled as he reached out to touch the new Harley, fingers brushing the polished chrome. Memories of open roads and freedom surged back. He could almost hear the wind rushing past him, smell the asphalt, feel the sun on his face. It was as though his spirit had been restored. One of the younger bikers stepped forward, handing him a leather vest with patches already sewn onto it. The top rocker bore the words "Honorary Brother." Beneath it was the Hells Angels emblem, and below that, stitched carefully, was the word "Veteran." "This belongs to you," Stone said. The old man's lips quivered. His hands gripped the vest tightly, his chest rising and falling as he tried to steady himself. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," Stone replied gently. "Just ride." For the first time in years, the veteran smiled through his tears. He felt alive again, as though a fire had been reignited inside him. The angels didn't just stop at giving him a bike. They filled his street with laughter, handshakes, and stories. They brought food, offered help to his daughter, and even promised to set up a fundraiser so that his granddaughter's medical expenses would be covered in the future. What had begun as a quiet tragedy had turned into a night of unity, the kind of night no one in that neighborhood would ever forget. Later, as the moon rose high and the engines eventually quieted, the veteran sat on the seat of his new Harley. He ran his hands along the handlebars, feeling the weight of destiny in his grip. His granddaughter's face flashed in his mind, her smile, her fragile body fighting so hard to live. He knew then that this motorcycle wasn't just for him. It was for her too. A symbol of hope, a promise that he would keep riding, keep fighting, and keep being strong for her. Before the angels departed, Stone turned back and gave the veteran a final salute. "Ride free, brother, and remember, you're one of us now." The engines roared once more, shaking the ground as the angels rolled out of the neighborhood in a thunderous procession. Neighbors who had once feared them now stood in awe, realizing they had just witnessed something extraordinary. The veteran remained on his porch, watching the taillights disappear into the distance. He looked down at the keys in his hand, then at the Harley waiting patiently for him. For the first time in a long time, he felt whole. He whispered into the night, almost to himself, "Guess I'm not done riding after all." And in that moment, surrounded by the echoes of roaring engines and the weight of a brotherhood he never knew he had, the old soldier understood. Sacrifice may take something away, but sometimes, life finds a way to give it back, and even more.